Welcome to the PLDC Video Assignment. The subject we are going to discuss is about the programming best practices in open source and commercial programming language. Most of the developers are inclined toward writing code for higher performance, comprising reliable and maintainability. But consider long term of software lifecycle. Efficiency and performance come below reliability and maintainability. If your code is not reliable and maintainable, you will be spending a lot of time to identify issues, trying to understand code through the life of your application. To develop a reliable and maintainable applications, you must follow coding standard and best practice. The naming convention, coding standard and best practice described in these documents are compiled from our own experience and refer to the various documents and online material. There are several standards exist in the program industry. None of them are good or bad, and you may follow any of them. What is most important is select one standard approach and ensure that everyone is following it. This is our agenda which will be followed throughout our video presentation. And I like to introduce my team members, and we like to thank our lecture in charge Mr. Lakmal Rupasinghe giving us such an opportunity to us. The audience having following requirements to understand the following video presentation. First is the basic knowledge of programming languages, especially on C# and Java. The basic concept of the object orientation programming. The objective of the presentation is to compare and contrast two different languages which share similar programming style and the method. Also, we have discussed the two different programming languages which are adhered by many programmers and successful in the software industry. Language was C# and Java. One is commercial language and other one is an open source language. It has its own and pros and cons, but we are not going to discuss about that. We are going to focus on our best practice on the coding standard and their recommended practices. The program is all about ones and zeros. With a few months of programming experience, you can write a working application. Making a program working is very easy, but doing it most efficient way requires more works than just make it work. Believe it, majority of the programmers in the software industry write working code, but not efficient code. Writing efficient code is an art, and you must learn and practice it. Why we require coding standard and best practice? This is 4 elements which will support to prolong life cycle of a software product: maintenance, performance, reliability, reusability. The more readable source code is, the easier it is for someone to maintain that code. By following a consistent style, it allows other developers to step in and help with maintenance or new development on the coding. By creating some code that is easier for developers to understand, it becomes easier to find and correct bugs. It also provides a better view of how that code fits within a large application, and in some cases, the company as a whole, this clear will lead to a potential for more code reuse, which can help a dramatic effect on cost and development effort. Whereas the programming practices are mostly performance enhancement, also will increase the reliability of the program, which will resistant with the abnormal event, which is one of a safety hazard. The ability of reusing is an essential way of ability to build a large thing for small part, and being able to identify among those parts. Reusability is often a required characteristic of platform software. Reusability brings several aspects to a software development that do not need to be considered when reusability is not required. To some example, on the first thing, the Java implemented a sleep method in a one line of code, and when we just take a second example, we see that the same method has been implemented Java, have been used in C#. It have taken some line of codes. So, but the both are doing the same function, but the methods are different and the approach also different. These have been commonly among all the programmers who use a different methods. Some of the programming language doesn't consist an efficient way to implement a small thing like an inbuilt function. So we'll take another example. This is a common method which have been implemented in two ways. This is not approach to the particular languages. When we take the first method, method 1, you can see is taking in as a parameter, return a value as a result. Okay, this have been implemented using a one line of code. We can say in one way it's a very efficient and use least number of code. But when we take the method 2, it has the same method. It takes the same parameter number as an input, and it will go to a sequence of line of code and return a result as finally. But when we take in these two methods, we can say that the method 2 just consists of many line of code, and it takes some time to generate the result. But when the method 1, you can take only one line of code and it seems efficient, and it will take less time to produce the result as output. So these are the two methods which have been developed by two different programmers and two different approaches. The approaches depend on the programmer's experience and how he follow the best practice. What is the methods to follow the proper coding standard? Before the design, we must know what the product we are developing, and we must make sure are we developing the right product. Problem must be identified first before designing start. The requirement gathering is hardest part of a total product life cycle. We have to divide the problem into small submodules, something like a divide and conquer method. During the implementation, we must adhere to the program convention, follow the coding techniques and coding standard and best practice which is recommended, following the same standard which the team members are following. This will increase the maintainability and reduce the cost. Must benefit from the others' work. That means not to copy others' work. We must take good out of well implemented programming structure. Try to achieve this solution for any programming problem. Be straightforward solution. If it is possible to code in one line to solve a problems, just go forward for that. Don't try to be a lazy programmer. By using a easiest method, this may cause some side effect in the program. The program must handle exceptional situation where may not identify in the testing. If the program faces some exceptional situation, it has to be safely handled it rather than cause any damage to the human environment. This is also one of the ethical responsibility of a programmer. Must document everything of the programming with the product lifecycle development. After testing, we have to start the optimization, the source code. Practice.